Hi guys, so this review is a few more amazing products from TATCHA, one of my favorite new skincare discoveries in probably the last decade or more, maybe even more so. I've been using Shiseido since I was about 18 years old, and I've tried certain things here and there, and then I've always gone back to Shiseido because, you know, when you go into a new line, it can actually look fantastic for the first couple of weeks or so because you're challenging your skin and it is not used to the new product you're introducing. So it's sort of starting to work a little bit more and in different ways. And so you kind of see this amazing result. I mean, obviously, you're going to get awful results if you're using something that you have a reaction to. That kind of shows up pretty quickly, but for something new that your skin is relatively good with, you know, you can sort of notice a difference right away. But then over time, you know, that kind of new radiance is sort of short-lived, which is why I've always gone back to Shiseido, and I literally have been using that line or parts of that line for most of my life. And I don't seem to agree with a lot of sort of French houses. I've tried a lot of French skincare in between, even Embryolisse, which is sort of a cult favorite, does not mesh well with my skin at all. So for some reason, I don't know why, maybe because I'm Asian, but Asian skincare lines seem to really agree with my skin type. So with TATCHA, I was actually really kind of surprised as to how much my skin really loved it. There wasn't anything that really surpassed Shiseido for me all of these years, and TATCHA now has really sort of been my go-to. There are certain things in Shiseido that I will never give up just because they're tried and true, but I really now have more of a blend of Shiseido and TATCHA, which is new because beforehand it was almost 80% Shiseido and then little things here and there. But you know, like with Shiseido, the eye creams I've used for, you know, more than a decade, and TATCHA doesn't have any eye creams, so I'm kind of sticking with Shiseido in that regard. What I failed to talk about in my previous video, which is what I really kind of regret, is the history of TATCHA. I mentioned it in a previous video when I discovered the blotting papers, which was my first introduction. I had read it in Harper's Bazaar. I've told this story before. I read it in Harper's Bazaar, and just the look of it and the fact that it was a product that geisha had used 300 years ago, and it was basically the exact same process. So what I was holding in my hands was exactly what a geisha had used 300 years ago, and just that idea is such a romantic idea. And I've always been fascinated with geisha since I was very young, and since I saw Shogun, which was, I don't know, in the 80s or something. I don't know if you guys remember it, but it was a mini-series with Richard Chamberlain and the most beautiful Japanese actress, and I was just so taken by the culture. My dad was always sort of like, why are you always talking about Japan? You're Korean. Why aren't you as curious about Korea? But of course, you know, being westernized and living in Canada, I was not exposed to Korean culture. I was exposed to Japanese culture in television, and they had this mini-series, and I thought, oh, there are people that look like me. I mean, granted, they're Japanese and I'm Korean, but they look like me. They're not white. So I was really taken, and since then, there was just this love affair and fascination with Japan, and the fact that, you know, everything is done with a sense of excellence, a pursuit of beauty and perfection. Not perfectionism, that to me is totally different, but everything is done with such an artful purpose, whether it's cooking or artwork or pottery or gardening or anything, and just sword making. I mean, I've seen documentaries about, you know, katanas and samurai swords, and I've just been really fascinated by it. So when I read Harper's Bazaar and I came to this little part about these blotting papers that were 100% natural, made out of these particular leaves with gold leaf infused, and then I sort of went onto the website and realized that you know, the founder, Vicky, who is just an amazing friend and somebody I truly, truly respect. And I had done this video, kind of mentioned the history of it, and she contacted me out of the blue and was just so honored to have a video. And I was like, what, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, I'm just so shocked that you're even talking to me at this point, because we were total strangers. And then we just started talking, and we realized that we had sort of the same philosophies. You know, her story is just so amazing, what she risked and what she left behind in order to bring something new to women who love beauty products, who love the ritual of beauty. She too was fascinated by geisha, and she just followed her dream and followed her heart and her curiosity, and it led her down this amazing path, and she has just given back so much. You know, we talk about a lot of different charities, things that you can do to better people's lives, women's lives around the world. You know, anytime that I'm in contact with her, it's just like this infusion of positive spiritual energy. She's just an incredible spiritual and kind person. And so when I was told that she was entrusted with a manuscript that was used by geisha, their own beauty rituals over hundreds and hundreds of years, something that was kept very, very sacred and secret. You know, the world of geisha is a very sort of mysterious kind of world, and I really, really am sort of upset by the notion of the Western notion that geisha are some kind of prostitute. You know, I can go into the whole history of that and why that happened to be, but that's certainly not the case. It was because there were actual prostitutes that kind of took that role on for the American sort of stationed in Japan, and that's how it sort of got mixed up. But geisha itself, you know, I really look at as the first feminists. Really, they were able to do things that women were not able to do. You know, 300-400 years ago. I'm sure they go back far longer than that, but they were able to be educated. They were able to be involved in the arts. The whole part of geisha was to entertain with your wit and your humor and your intelligence. It really didn't have anything to do with sexuality at all. It had to do, you had to be able to converse on any topic that was brought forth and do it in such a way that was illuminating, that was entertaining, that was sort of the epitome of feminine appeal, you know, strength and softness. They were amazing musicians. I mean, these girls are trained at 3, 4, 5 years old into this art, and it really is an art. And very few sort of cross into being able to be full geisha. You know, it goes into Meiko's and then geisha. There's this whole, you know, I'm sure Vicky could share much more than I can. So anyways, when I heard that she was entrusted, and it doesn't surprise me that they would open up their world to her, because it's just so clear what her intentions are. It's just nothing but honorable. It's nothing but respectful, to really preserve tradition. And their company, you know, they don't sort of go in, rape the land of all of its resources and leave to make money. They really work with everyone involved and really sort of respect and treat everyone and the land with as much respect and honor as they deserve. So that unto itself right away was like, I just want to support you in any way that I can. And we've just developed an amazing friendship. So when she told me, going back to this manuscript again, I was just so excited and thrilled. So what she's done is sort of a hybrid of these ancient rituals and ancient ingredients with modern technology. She's sort of like bridged those two together and really kept the integrity of these beauty rituals that geisha used to use. So she had 2 launches. I've talked about her original line, and many of you have emailed her, which I think is fantastic, and told her, you know, your experience with the products. And I haven't gotten a single negative response yet. Everyone has been like, oh my gosh, you're right. I mean, the enzyme powder is amazing, or the camellia cleansing oil has just been phenomenal. It's changed my skin. It's just, you know, the serum has really brightened it. I mean, it's just all been positive and glowing. And that doesn't surprise me at all, because my skin's quite fickle. So for me to switch over to something that I've been using for 20, 30 years and going, well, maybe not 30 years, 20, 25 years or so, you know, I can see why people really love it. So she introduced me to 2 new products in the line, which is the Luminous Dewy Skin Mist. I mean, if you just look at the packaging of that, it comes again in this beautiful box that just really kind of looks like wood, as you can see. It's very minimalistic, very organic, just very sort of earthy, which I really respond to. And then when you look inside and you just see the vibrancy and the beauty of it. And it just has a little synopsis of what she's doing, and then a sort of pull out in terms of just where it was harvested, where she's finding these ingredients. And I love it because she always starts it with dear friend. You know, there really is a personal relationship there. So that's how it's packaged in. And then when you open it up, when I saw this bottle, I was like, oh my gosh, could that be any more beautiful? It's glass, so it's quite heavy. It's very elegant, very luxurious. And it is exactly what it says, a dewy skin mist. A lot of hydration, obviously. There's squalene, where I was sort of thinking, squalene. I'm not too sure, but I was wrong because I thought of it as squalene as an extract of a shark or whales. No. Sharks, I believe. But this is olive oil. So the squalene comes in sort of botanical form and in animal form. And I believe this is a botanical form. And it smells, I mean, everything smells amazing. What I love the most is this mister itself. I don't know about you, but certain misters that I've used, they don't mist properly. Even the Dr. Hauschka that I love, I have to always spritz it onto an actual pad and then put it on my face, because the way that it mists, it's just, I feel drenched. It's not very comfortable. It kind of goes in big, huge droplets. I bought another toner as well, the Epicurean toner. I've actually had to transfer it into a little disposable or portable little thing that I got at a makeup supply store, because the mister literally was like a stream of liquid that doesn't actually hit my face. It just streams into certain spots. So I literally have it just dripping off of one spot. And it really, I found that highly irritating. And that's enough to just never make me repurchase a product again. Just when you have a mechanism like that, that doesn't work. What I love about this is the way that it mists. It literally just mists the entire face. It comes out diffused. It doesn't come in, I mean, you can't see huge droplets. It smells so refreshing. It's super, super hydrating. I actually couldn't use this up until the weather changed, because it's so hydrating. Like in the summertime, I'm already using oils and there's sweat and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of held off until I could give it a proper review, which was when the weather sort of turned and my face was feeling more parched. I was using retinol, again, Retin-A, and so I really needed that extra hydration, and this definitely gives me that. And also with certain, when I powdered a little bit too much, just because I'm using oils as a base, and then I would put some powder and I realized I've got a bit too much powder on, I will miss that, and obviously it'll look dewy. So it really does work as a skincare product. It also works like the way Fix Plus would work, any of those kinds, or even Evian sprays, things like that. But obviously there's more skincare benefits in this. But I like the fact that it's sort of multi-purpose. Anytime I need to sort of refresh my makeup, refresh it again. I've had my makeup on for hours, and I don't know if you can see, just from misting that, it kind of brings it back to life again. Smell of it is amazing. So you get 40 mils, 1.35 ounces. So there's that. And then the other product that she passed on was a mask. Now, as I told her, I'm going to be really honest, I don't like sheet masks. I have been given so many sheet masks from friends all around the world. And I've kept a small collection of them, things that I thought were interesting, or I just like the packaging, and the rest I've passed on, because I am a claustrophobic kind of person. I don't like being in closed spaces. I do get claustrophobic. I don't like wearing silicone-based anything primers, because, again, it feels like there's something that's just on my face and sort of I don't like the feeling of it because I can really, really feel it, and I feel like I've got this huge veil on, and my skin can't breathe, and I start to psychologically kind of get claustrophobic. So sheet masks have always sort of done that for me, you know, a big sheet on my face, and I feel like a mummy, and I can't really move. So I told her, you know, it took me months to actually try this because I was like, oh, I don't know. Well, anyways, the weather really, really turned here, and my face was really parched. And I know sheet masks are great for major hydration. So I thought, let's just, you know, if anything's going to work, it's going to be TATCHA. So let me just give this a whirl. In fact, I have an SK2 mask, you know, that much hyped SK2 mask that every makeup artist uses for red carpet events. I'll put an SK2 mask ahead of time and then put on all of the makeup. I still have it. I was given it by Miss Killa Star, and months and months and months ago, and I haven't even cracked that open because I was like, oh, I don't know about the sheet mask. So I will do a comparison video actually about this and the SK2. So I put this on last week sometime, and you know, it's sort of like a mesh. It's like the pulp of like a coconut or something. The material is not a sheet. It's not like a cloth sheet at all. It's a completely different material, and I believe it is sort of like, you know, the heart or pulp of a coconut, which is sort of amazing. And I put it on. It's very sort of easy to put on, and then I was just sort of like lying back and watching a show for 15 minutes. So it's a 15-minute mask, and I could feel it tingling. I was like, ooh. And not in a bad way. You know that you get that tingle, that burn, where I'm like, okay, it's scorching my skin. No, this was a tingling that's very similar to the Silk Moisturizer, if you guys have used that in their line. A couple of you had said, oh, you know what, I find it kind of tingly for a few minutes. Is that right? And it is. That is the way it is. Even with Vicky, who's been using her products for, you know, since the inception, still gets it tingly, and that's from the red algae. So it actually is... you know, it's not an uncomfortable tingle, but that tingle really is there for a reason, and yes, it is doing that, and it's not a bad thing, basically. So I could feel this tingling as well, and I was like, okay, I know that this is like the Silk Moisturizer, and so I laid back, and 15 minutes, I took it off, and holy crack-a-jacka, my skin was so plumped with the hydration. I started getting all of these sort of like bags and lines, you know, of course it's from aging and getting older, but I actually got it from dehydration, just my skin being parched. You could really sort of see that, and the mask comes about to here, and that just puffed right up. These lines that I have, you know, from aging, as you can see here, that puffed right up. It was sort of like my skin had just plumped up, and it was glowing, and it was radiant, and I was really pissed off that I didn't have an event to go to, because I was like, now I'm just at home and I've wasted this total, you know, like gorgeousness there. Not my face, but the skin. So I was like thrilled, and I emailed her and I said, wow, okay, you kind of turned me around. I don't know if I can use it all the time, but my goodness, if I had a special event, that's the first thing I'm doing. And I'm using it as a treatment and then putting makeup on top of it, because the plumping action was as though, you know, it's like a filler job. I mean, or those, don't they have those plumping, like 24/7 Freeze brand or whatever, that plumping thing? This was like that in the most natural way, because it was just an infusion of hydration. So I was like totally impressed and amazed, and it doesn't surprise me because I kind of turned around. You know how I was so against the granule exfoliators until I found Laura Mercier, and I was like, okay, I gotta eat some crow. Never say never, because now I'm digging that one particular exfoliator. And then sheet masks, I'm like, yeah, I'm not liking the sheet mask. No, I like this one brand. I haven't tried the SK2 yet. I will try that and then do a comparison, but this has sort of turned me around for masks, especially in the winter time, and especially for special events. Just having one mask handy if I have to look extra special, then I definitely know that I've got that, and my skin will look hydrated and plump and radiant. So anyways, it's a bit of a long-winded video, but I really wanted to give you the history of TATCHA and the genesis of it being inspired by geisha, which I did not mention in my previous video. For what reason, I have no idea. But now I've gotten that. So any questions you have, please feel free to ask, and I will try to answer them as best as possible. Thanks so much, guys.